back to the Kayura and Mal podcast, where we are documenting our journey of my fiance trying to talk you.
I mean, I'm still trying to talk you into being a gamer.
Yeah, you really are trying to talk me into being a gamer. But he's trying to turn me into a gamer, and we also discuss anything else we feel like here, so...
And I am Mal'Ganis, the overseasoned, overcooked veteran. Our cat is currently on an expedition. You can see her head bobbing in the background. She really likes my sock drawer and my underwear drawer. We lost one of them in it one time. That was a happy 3-hour panic attack as we tore the apartment apart and ran around the apartment complex looking for her.
Yeah, we thought she had gotten outside.
And to add to the misery, she's also deaf, like me. So, but it's funny when she thinks she's sneaking up on you and she's like walking across tinfoil, and she doesn't realize she's making any noise. Life continues to be crazy. Work continues to grind on. World of Warcraft Season of Discovery continues to be impressive and amazing.
Yeah, how's your rating going with that?
So we haven't. So the guild has started ST, but Red Team has not started ST yet. We had to catch a couple of people up, and we had to recruit some people as well. We were short a couple bodies because the raid size went from 10 to 20. Initially, I thought Red Team and Blue Team was going to merge, and then Purple Team was going to do the recruiting, but apparently they wanted to recruit an additional 30 people to add to the overall guild roster.
What's the benefit of the guild being that big?
So what it allows is for people like me to take a break.
Okay.
Because when you have a full staffed raid team to include bench guys, it allows for people who have crazy schedules like us to step away from the raid for a night and it not hurt the guild or the team overall.
That makes sense.
So that helps a lot, and it'll help too going into the 40-man raiding scene, because it's really tough to staff a 40-man raid. At least it was in classic original classic from what I was told, and then in vanilla there were periods of time it was difficult to full stack a 40-man raid. But I think by the end of it we should have a full 60-man 3 20-man teams, and then we'll have a bench roster as well of guys cycling in and out. So I'm pretty stoked for that. Stoked for Sunken Temple. And my current ongoing rivalry with the Red Team raid leader. He plays a lot more than I do, and I still almost beat him every time. Except for like one fight where I don't actually get to fight the boss.
He's the raid leader?
He is the raid leader.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Funny, I was the same age as him when I was a raid leader. It burns people out. It really does. Being a raid leader, it will burn people out.
I can see that.
I think that's why part of the reason I burnt out from raiding in World of Warcraft as a whole.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. It's like you're doing something so much of like you're organizing it essentially like in a way kind of like a coach, and then
you're right on target. Keep rolling.
Plus, like, so like you're coaching plus playing, plus you just have life in general. Like I'm already struggling just to even play 1 day a week of anything.
Yep.
So,
and a lot of what makes a raid leader's life easier is structure and organization. But it's also difficult because raiders are cats. Sometimes they don't feel like playing. Sometimes they can't show up to raid. Sometimes they say they'll be there and then they're not there, or they say they won't be there and then they're there.
Well, and you also have to think about it too, of like life is anything but structured.
Mm-hmm.
Like things just come out of the blue. You know,
Yep.
It could be, oh, you're on your way home from work and you're stuck in a traffic jam and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep. And it happens, and we're very understanding of that. This is one thing that I'm very appreciative of this guild and this raid team is, they're understanding, and they're all, kind of early 20s to late 40s. So everybody's they've got a job, they're out of college, They get it. They've got wives and husbands and children, so they completely understand if things go sideways. The biggest thing with them that I really like too is communication. Like if I say, hey, I'm not going to be able to make this raid, it's not some drama. There's no talking to. There's nothing. It's just, all right, man, tracking. That's all they want. They just want to know.
Yeah, I can see that. That's nice.
So that's super helpful with alleviating stress. But yeah, it has been a rather enjoyable experience. I hear one of the cats has found a bag. I don't know what's in the bag. Bags are their play toys, unfortunately.
Yeah, why do we spend money on toys?
I don't really know at this point.
So when we have kids, are we just going to get them boxes for Christmas and nothing else?
I will give it a shot, and I'm willing to give it a shot one year. Because at the current rate, Mowgli likes a toy, a specific type of toy. The cats go back and forth, but they seem to find more joy trying to tear their way into boxes than they do anything else. So yeah. Or chewing on my bootlaces. They do
like playing soccer.
They do like playing soccer, funnily enough. But yeah, no, it's been good. WildSaw's been good. I heard Helldiver's got a bunch of updates, which I'm super stoked for, but I don't have time to play. I barely have enough time as it is to farm the gold I need for the consumable buffs that I need for raiding, so I don't really get to play much of anything else. And I lost my streak in War Thunder, my daily login streak. But it's okay. It doesn't really matter. I'm a terrible player anyway, so.
So I guess have you heard of any of the updates for Helldiver or anything that sounds super interesting in particular?
So there was a campaign against the automatons to push them out of the western sectors, if you want to use cardinal directions of the universe of how the map was laid out. And then they launched a surprise attack from the northwestern portion as a counteroffensive and took their homeworld of Cyberstan, which apparently there's a lot of lore to that I'm still learning about, and that sounds really cool. And with that coming through, that's changed things. They're also dropping new weapons, new stratagems, new ship upgrades, new armors. Those guys over at Airhead Studios are going hog wild on the content that they're adding to the game. So that's super cool of them to do that. And I'm super stoked. May 20th, World of Warcraft Cataclysm Classic, even though it's not really classic, but it is Cataclysm again, and Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria were probably my two favorite expansions, even though that is an incredibly controversial statement to make and may get me lynched. And then we've got the Mists of Pandaria remix coming for retail World of Warcraft, but I can't stand retail anymore. It is not rewarding to play.
Why do you say that? Like, can you?
So I'm a Wrath baby, and I think pretty much all the way up until the end of probably the end of Cataclysm. I think Cataclysm is really when it ended. So like if you were a tier 3 raider, so that meant you raided Molten Core, Blackwing Lair, Onyxia's Lair, all of that, AQ20, AQ40, made it all the way to Naxxramas, cleared Naxxramas, and then went into the Burning Crusade, which was the next expansion, and the level cap got raised. The gear that you earned in Naxxramas could be used in the first tier of raiding, and I think even into the second tier of raiding in Burning Crusade, and then that continued into Wrath of the Lich King, which I think Sunwell was the last tier in Burning Crusade. That gear could be used going into the next expansion, going into Naxxramas revamp. And then, if I remember correctly, there was still gear from the Icecrown Citadel that was current going into the first tier of raiding, at least the heroic dungeons of Cataclysm. So everything was interconnected. So what your achievements of the last patch and of the last expansion were not all all lost when the new update came. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But now, when the new season, and I still hate that we use seasons to describe all of this, because I think patches should be as fast or as slow as they need to be to develop correctly.
I mean, you can make the argument that like a TV show season, there are different links, so
that's true, but they don't use season in that context. They use it as like a sports season, like the 2021 season, the 2022 season. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it in very recent World of Warcraft, as soon as that new patch drops, your raid gear is irrelevant because there will be catch-up gear that's basically free gear that's as good, if not better, to get ready for the next raid. So it's like you grinded and you grinded and you grinded and you grinded to get through these raids, hard bosses, and then it's as soon as the patch drops, it's completely irrelevant. There's no like, and I hate being like, I don't think status, because I don't really view armor as status or mounts as status or titles as status, but it's like it is an emblem of like your capability as a player, I guess.
I guess I'm going to make the argument for why they do this, especially if you're like comparing it to like a sports season.
Mm-hmm.
Is starting out, everyone is on the same playing field.
And this is true, and I see how that balanced a lot of stuff, but it doesn't matter with looking for raid. There's no need to put catch-up gear in the game with LFR, because you can literally, like when I started playing Dragonflight, I can't remember if Tier 2 was out yet or not. The second raid of Dragonflight, I want to say it was, or it was like right around the corner. All I had to do was buy the crafted gear and then go into LFR. And looking for raid is just the group finder for super, super easy raids. They're like really watered down compared to the real thing. So once you had LFR gear, you could just start, you could technically walk on, well, you shouldn't be able to walk onto a raid team. You kind of could, depending on how good of a player you were, and you did your upgrades and enchants and all that, and your min-maxing of your stats. But
to me, it sounds like they're doing it so like people who are new to the game are just like coming in.
There's no new World of Warcraft players. If there are, you being unique, your population is infinitesimally smaller than my population of World of Warcraft players.
They're like, if they're trying to get more people to play,
that, and I understand
they need
that
them to be able to jump in and just start playing.
Right, and it's frustrating because that mentality started really, I think, Mist of Pandaria. The precursor began in Cataclysm, but the really when the hammer fell was during Mist of Pandaria with the character boost, because the character boost was you were max level, you had gear, you made your character, boosted them. The gear that you had, granted it was greens, but the stats were decent enough. I think you could get into the first wing of Siege of Orgrimmar, or at least Throne of Thunder, so you could immediately start getting quality purples, quality epic gear, and start working on your legendary like off the rip. So it was kind of like, I get why they did it, to get players to end game faster, but at the same time, it robbed players of what they paid for. Does that make sense?
I guess, like, I don't understand like how you see it that way.
So, and maybe it's because I'm an old curmudgeon-y World of Warcraft player that misses the time when, like, you did Nax, then you did you did Nax, then you did Old War, then you did Trial of the Champion.
So you think like they should have to start at the beginning just like you did?
No. So not at the beginning of World of Warcraft, the beginning of the expansion, so that old content is still relevant and that they get to see it. Because and I'm one of these people because I missed the first half of Cataclysm and the first half of Mist of Pandaria.
Could the argument be made though that like they're going to be isolated and they're not going to stick around because they're essentially playing by themselves because everyone else is?
No, it will prevent that because people are making alts. They've got to go back and follow the path, follow the progression path. Because the problem is they've condensed everybody into one brick. It's almost too compressed for people to interact with each other. They're not spread out enough. So like I was sitting on Wrath Classic servers last night, getting my Warlock ready for Cataclysm. And I literally was just watching the trade chat of just, need 5 for ICC, need 5 for Nax, need RDPS, need heals for Old War, need 2 heals for TOC. Like, all of that old content is still being run because if you follow it's the most efficient path to get to the end game content. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
And some of that gear remains relevant throughout expansions. And there's also achievements that you can do to unlock things in those old raids. And that was an attempt, I think, to keep a lot of things relevant. But it what it feels like is when the new patch drops, that raid is instantly dead. Nobody's doing it anymore. Nobody's doing the content anymore. It's like, why would you? Because the new patch is better. And you're not required really in any way to go run that content.
Is it so they don't have to maintain it?
No, there is no maintenance cost for the raid existing. They haven't maintained Molten Core in retail in probably almost 10 years. Haven't done any maintenance. And the raid still runs fine, and people still run it daily to get their Thunder Fury. I did. Took me forever to get this. Yeah, took me forever to get way longer than it should have to get Thunder Fury on my Rogue.
So I feel like you kind of contradicted yourself a little bit. And I guess maybe it's just me because sometimes I feel like when you go into this stuff, I don't fully understand everything. So I just kind of feel like I'm being talked at.
Or is it because you always play the devil's advocate? Both, okay. Elaborate.
Like you said, it's just like the new expansion comes out and just drop like that. But then also you said people will go back and play it.
So when I say that, so Molten Core is a unique example. Basically, there is, I forgot how, they've had so many stat squishes. It used to be like you could kind of gauge how far back you could run. So Transmog was an attempt to make old content relevant as well because people wanted the old armor sets that they had when Burning Crusade was out, Wrath of the Lich King was out. So they could use their best gear, but they could also have the look that they liked. And a lot of that content is soloable content now because we're such high level that you can just, I can one shot just from Molten Core to probably Legion going into maybe the first tier of BFA. I could probably one shot every boss in the game. Other than maybe Sargeras and or not Sargeras, I just forgot his name. Entomb of Sargeras, the last boss, the Guild Breaker. So it's kind of like,
I guess I still don't understand like how that helps people coming into the game.
It really doesn't, but it's kind of like you've paid for all these expansions and you're paying for a subscription service, but you're missing 20 years worth of content because you just want to get to the newest content. And not that this content is relevant or gives gear that's really going to help you, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like you're missing the history of it. Does that make sense? Like and I get it. Like everybody wants to play the newest, latest content. If you're a hardcore raider like I was, you want to be on the bleeding edge of content. You don't want to be running Throne of Thunder when Siege of Orgrimmar's out because you need gear to get into Siege of Orgrimmar. But it's like,
I think it's because I'm going to say this of like, okay, it's 20 years of content. If I started at the very beginning, how long would it take me to get to where you're at?
Clear it in a week. Probably 2 days. If you boosted to max level with the gear that they gave you, you could clear every raid all the way up to the end of Legion by yourself, more than likely.
What were people doing for 20 years?
They would raid new content. They would either raid the new content that was current for the expansion, or they would go back and do old content for mounts, achievements, transmog sets, pets when they got added to the game. So I understand your point as a new player. You're like, what do I do? It's like, well, go do the new content because that's probably going to teach you the most.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, it allows them to, like, it's going to, because I feel like World of Warcraft is facing a keeping people interested issue.
So their design model is to put you on the treadmill. They just want to put you on the treadmill, and whenever they get done building the new one, they want to transition you to the new treadmill. It's almost like they don't want you to look at old content sometimes. Every now and then they'll have something come out that's like, look at this thing we made years ago. And it's like, oh, cool, we get to go re-experience that. And they've done pretty good with like time walking dungeons.
And do you think this has to do more to like looking at how people's attention spans have changed? That it's a way of kind of targeting younger generations of like, ooh, something new and shiny, go do this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's how the new generation of gamers chase. And this is a conversation that I've had with several people in my guild and two close friends. And that is, and most of them agree either completely or at least to an extent, and that is they need to sunder the world. There's too much stuff in World of Warcraft. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great bargain. I think you can get everything for like $100 and then your 15 months or $15 a month subscription, you get a free boost out of it. With that free boost, you can effectively experience all the content in the game that it has to offer right now, if you so chose to do that. But you have to, one, know where it is, know how to do it, know how to get into it, like stuff like that. You'd have to Google things like that. But that was something that I kind of enjoyed when I started playing, is I would see a dude walk by and like a badass set of armor, and I'd like inspect him, look at the name of the pieces of armor and stuff like that, and I go Google like, how do I get this set of armor? And then of course it's like, I'm still level 22 and I'm a druid, and that guy's wearing plate armor, and his plate armor came from ICC. This was during Wrath of the Lich King. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I can't get it anyways, but that's besides the point. It was just the mystery of things like that. And it was a world to explore, because I've played so much and explored so much that World of Warcraft feels really small to me, because I've explored the land so much. And when I say sunder the world, they need to restart the game and create World of Warcraft 2. And this is really into your background of like coding and data management and stuff like that. They need to redo the graphics, and they need to redo the quest design. They need to redo all of the spaghettified code that's been there for 20 years and like fix it. You know, like the UI, good Lord, the UI and displays and dashboards are all... There's no excuse for a $1 billion corporation to lean on a select few individuals to maintain add-ons so that a player population several million strong can play the game and it not be miserable. But also the people who design raids are not very intelligent either, because they'll be like, the boss is green, the floor is green, the effect is green, and it's like everything in the boss room is green, so you don't know what's going on, or it's red, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I execute on the mechanic? Or like, how do I do the thing if I can't see the thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, like, so imagine how you felt when you first started playing. You were like, why is this happening? What am I doing? Where am I going? Why do I click on this? Why do I click on that? That's how I felt as an experienced raider going into... I think it's the most current raid in retail. I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. I literally feel like you did when you were fighting level 10 mobs in whatever that zone you were in BFA was. I was like, I felt the same way you did. I was like, I don't want to do this because I don't know what's going on, and I don't have the energy to learn what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That does.
So, sorry, that was a really long rant.
I mean, it's not like we really had anything scripted out to talk about anyway.
This is well, I mean, there was WoW in segment 3 that we haven't gotten to in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, I had a whole script written that you keep pulling us off of. So we got
we were going in blind on this one. I didn't know we were going to go back to the things we hadn't talked about.
No. I mean, we were going in like 100% blind, but I just looked at it and went, oh yeah, we never actually got to segment 3 of the podcast that should have happened 3 weeks ago. So, but it's fortunate that you started talking about World of Warcraft, so we ended up on that segment. So,
see, I finally get there.
Yeah, you'll finally get there. It takes her a couple weeks sometimes, but yeah,
you're the one who wanted to marry me, so
I know you said yes.
You're not the crazy one.
My therapist sometimes disagrees, but like that note right there. So like add-ons and parsing is killing World of Warcraft rating. It just make the boss fights so they don't require add-ons to be playable. Like I felt like when I wrote that, I was like in a very extreme mood. But it is a true statement that like if you can design a boss well, you don't need an add-on to understand what the boss is doing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like I've got to run. God, I don't even know how big add-ons are now. You know, like there are guys. I think I rambled about this in one of our just gameplay episodes. There are guys that professional raid teams keep on staff that their sole purpose in life is to write scripts for weak wars for them. Just for them.
That's like really sad. Is it? I feel like it can't be this because I went to school with a million people who would like give their right arm to be a video game developer. So like, is it that they don't want to hire enough staff to do everything that needs to be done? Are they not getting the talent?
So it is, and this knowledge is extrapolated from what Pirate Software said because he used to work for Blizzard. He worked on, I think, StarCraft 2 was his baby. And his dad worked for Blizzard as well. I think he was the director of cinema for like 20-something years. Like, if you've seen a World of Warcraft cinematic in the past 20 years, you've seen his dad's work. But go check out Pirate Software because he's awesome, by the way, and he's a super awesome dude. Really inspired me to push to do this. But when he left Blizzard, Activision Blizzard Studios, when they were purchased by Activision, and they went and he went to Amazon Game Studios, he said he felt like he wasn't accomplishing anything because he was working a regular 40 hours a week, 5 days, Monday through Friday. He'd go home on the weekends. He told his boss about it, and his boss said, take the rest of the day off, take Friday off. He ended up getting like a 3.5 day week, 3.5 day weekend. Came back Monday and he said, he was like, yep, you're absolutely right. Because his boss told him, he said, because his boss apparently worked at Blizzard too, he said, they overworked us. We worked insane amounts of overtime to produce that product because the profit margin that they're trying to achieve is just ludicrous. They have like a hire fire cycle too as well. They'll hire a bunch of devs on and then fire them once the project is done. Just to maintain that bottom line of like ludicrously large profit margins.
So that sounds like what the issue is they don't have developers that are motivated to actually do a good job. Because it's like, well, why am I going to bust my butt to get this done if I'm still going to be required to work 5 hours of overtime today?
I think they're still working at a ludicrous pace and a ludicrous amount of time. The problem is, what I think is they're hiring game developers that never played World of Warcraft because the game developers that played World of Warcraft that worked at Blizzard no longer work at Blizzard.
Well, let me put it this way, and again, like coming from someone who's worked as a programmer before, of there reaches a point, and you probably experienced this too with your previous job, like when you're overworked like that, you stop caring.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, this the best you got? Yeah, that's the best I got.
Yep. Well, and a lot of it too, I think, is their mid-level management either one, don't have a programming background, so they don't understand the people they're in charge of. They don't understand what they do. And I get it. Not every programmer is going to be a great manager.
Yeah.
100% get that. But you have to have a basic understanding of what your subordinate is doing. Otherwise, it's almost like the blind leading the blind. I think it's a combination of that, of mid-level management doesn't know what's going on. They don't know what their subordinates do. And two, like I said, it feels like nobody at Blizzard plays World of Warcraft. They don't know what they're putting out. That's how it feels.
Much, they don't, because like they don't get to play it. Like they don't have time to play it.
Right, and I get I get it from that. I get it. That's like I get what you're saying, but like I'm talking just from like a QA perspective. They have QA guys on staff that should be going, no, we can't. That's not. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm going to use this example. Working in data analytics, like I work, pretty much all of our stuff is internal. Mm-hmm. So I do data analytics and dashboard development for managers of other divisions.
Right.
That's like my primary role.
So they kind of like tell you what they want and you make it happen?
In some ways, but they can always, sometimes they're very vague about it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
And so sometimes I just go and I put something together, and when it gets to delivered, they completely tear it apart. Even though it's what I thought they wanted.
And it's soul crushing.
Well, not just soul crushing, but sometimes they like it, but they tear it apart because they have better ideas now, because they're like, I was like, oh, you can do this. Let's do that.
Oh, you like planted a seed and then it didn't grow until a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have experienced that a lot before.
And I mean, that's just part of the nature of it. And I'm wondering if also like something similar is happening where one, like their target audience, like the equivalent of the managers, where I can like every week or so be like, hey, what do you think of this? They're not able to do that.
So they kind of have that with the top rating teams in the world. But the problem is the game should not be designed for them, because there's really, I mean, at the top end, there's only 100 players. There's like 5 top rating guilds in the world that like actually go to the world race. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know. I haven't watched the world race in years. But they seem to be designing raids and game systems specifically for those 100 people and forget everybody else who makes World of Warcraft great.
Yeah. And that's part of it. And it's, you know, if they're getting most of their feedback from those people, well, it's like, okay, they really like the design of it. But then it's also like you're pushing it out to the general public. And now all of them have their opinions. They're like, oh, this is really cool. But then they also get new ideas of like, oh, this would make it better.
Yeah, it would have been so much cooler if they did this or did that. Yeah.
And so I just think that's part of the problem, is like they can't get feedback from everyone. And the other part of it too is, one, like they've been developing this for 20 years.
I don't think there's a single original staff member that still works at Blizzard, other than Chris Metzen, who just came back. So, and I think they said, we will give you an insane amount of money if you come save World of Warcraft, because from what I understand, the player count almost dropped below 1 million at one point. The game was that bad.
So that leads to my next point.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any of their original staff who originally wrote the code.
Right.
And these codes have gone through multiple iterations and developments, and it's always been somebody new.
Mm-hmm.
It is much harder to make changes to a code that someone else wrote.
Yeah, like legacy code.
It is so much more difficult because you're having to trace back and understand what each of their variables are and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, like, I'm going to say this, like me and my coworkers, we try to keep unison, but like they'll name a variable something completely different than what I would name it.
Yep.
But now I'm stuck. I'm making changes to their code. I'm stuck using the variable name that they selected.
Yeah, and it doesn't click in your brain.
And it doesn't click in my brain. And so, and also just the way things are structured and laid out.
Did I tell you the story about how World of Warcraft Classic came into existence?
Mm-mm.
So this was around the time of, I think it was Battle for Azeroth. This might have been right before Shadowlands, I think. So they originally, the reason that they kept saying no initially was they're like, you don't want it. And then it was like, okay, there's a lot of player demand for it. We're going to do it. They couldn't do it. They could not trim the expansions back. They didn't have the source code, or I guess source code isn't the right word, but they didn't have a version of, 1.0 World of Warcraft. They didn't have it. They couldn't recreate it until they reached out to all the old Blizzard employees from that era, and they said, hey, do you guys have any of these stored somewhere, anywhere? And it wasn't just like they could get an old box game disc and do it, from what I understand. They needed the actual developer version of it. And apparently one dude had an old computer, an old work computer that he had home, because he developed a home, had it stored on there. And they were able to recover it from like a 18-year-old hard drive.
Wow.
That's the only reason that World of Warcraft Classic came into existence. So the story goes.
But it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, like, to your point of, like, they basically need to do a World of Warcraft 2.0.
That was Burning Crusade. They need World of Warcraft 2. The second one, not the second major patch.
But, okay.
If you say 2.0, my brain's like, wait, we already did Burning Crusade, then we did Burning Crusade Classic. We can't do Burning Crusade again.
Oh, okay. But, they basically need to, like,
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying.
clean up all the code, go through and redo everything. But, like, it's work. And it sounds like they just burn out their employees. Their employees aren't motivated to do just a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, they probably don't have the time to really play it to get their own ideas of changes to make.
And I think too, I think a lot of them are underpaid. They're not getting bonuses. They're not getting progression or advancement. I'd heard a story that Blizzard implemented a model that was, and this is, I'd read about this. It's not an economic model. It's a employee force control mechanism, where it's like you cut your bottom 10% every year. So you do your annual evaluation, you cut your bottom 10%. So every year you're cutting that bottom 10%. And my brain just goes, okay, well, let's say in 5 years, you've cut 50% of your workforce if you're not hiring at the same rate that you're firing.
Yeah.
So you've probably fired some really good employees. They may not have been heavy hitters, but they were well trained and hard workers and showed up on time and did their job and made it happen. Not everybody's a star stud out there. But, from what I understand, they had used a model similar to that at one point, and it bled their talent pool dry, is what I think. And then, like, if you look at the Season of Discovery team, from what I understand, there are only like 15 people on that team, but they all share the same vision, and they all openly communicate with the community and with each other. It's not a 500-man development team separated into multiple divisions all over a massive campus. It's just like 15 homies chilling out in a room. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that is what has really contributed to Season of Discovery's success, is because they had a very clear vision. And if it started to veer off and the community was like, no, that's not working, they immediately, next patch, they adjusted the course. It wasn't like, all right, it's got to go to a focus group and then a middle management and then a senior leadership and all this and all that. It's just 50. All right, we're going to make this change. We're going to make it, It's it frustrates me. And I know I'm talking at you a lot, but This is almost like a video game therapy session for me. Plus, I need somebody who's almost impartial and hasn't sunk a bajillion man hours. I don't even know what my playtime's at. I know I'm not like the highest in the world. I know that for a fact, but I have a ludicrous amount of playtime, split across, different servers and characters and eras of the game. So yeah, it's almost to the point like I can't walk away now. I either need to watch it all burn to the ground, or I need to watch it succeed. I can't,
Mm-hmm.
I have to know the conclusion now. I'm way too invested.
No, I get that. I completely understand that. Almost reminds me of being like, easiest way to explain it is like going from like preteen into like teenage years with TV shows.
Oh yeah, you're like, I know it's not a good show, but I need to know the end of it.
It's like, I remember like iCarly was coming to an end as I was like phasing out of like Nickelodeon,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just like, I need to know how it ends because
Right.
I've grown up with this show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that was like, well, I can't say Avatar: The Last Airbender because Avatar: The Last Airbender is
I still watch it.
age appropriate for everybody.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are, what life experiences you have. You will learn something new. You will experience intense emotion watching that show.
That was something, it always infuriated me. Because in elementary school, I watched it and like I was like the weird kid for watching it. And then
What? You had terrible people in your school.
no one watched it except like a handful of people.
It was so good.
And
So
then all
good.
of a sudden, it just like comes back around and like everyone's watching it. I'm just like, what the heck?
It's because season one, I'm not going to say season one felt weak because I don't think it was weak. I think season one, because they were very childish because of the original target audience. And then season two, things started to pick up. And then season three, things got out of control.
I'm going to disagree with that. I feel like season 3 hit like a low point.
Really, I thought the season 3 was strong because it had the Zuko redemption arc that was in that is how you write a redemption arc.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just like, to me, season 2 was just on point.
And that was No War in Bossing Say.
I think so.
Yeah. No, season 2 was incredibly strong. Like I kind of go like season 1, season 2, season 3.
I feel like just season 3, it just like, I felt like it was like dragging on. And maybe it was just my ADHD brain. I'm like, okay, we are so close to this. Let's just get to it.
Was because of the solar eclipse. I guarantee that's why your brain was like, all right, why are they not fighting the Fire Lord? Why are there another 8 episodes?
Yeah.
I'm guarantee that's probably why.
Yeah, it was just like, there was just, I said, it just hit like this low point of like, it was just like, all they're doing is hiding in the Fire Lord's land in plain sight, and that's just all they're doing.
Well, and I enjoyed it because I enjoyed getting to see the inner workings of the Fire Nation, but it brought a conclusion to the end of Katara's story with her mother. It allowed us to delve deeper into Zuko's childhood. It also brought about the White Lotus.
Also, so I know we've had this conversation. I think you forgot. So just be mindful. I never got to finish the last season either because that's when I started doing like travel ball.
Well, I know what we're doing.
Yes.
In the very near future. Podcast over. We'll see you guys later. We got to go finish Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, I was just like, no spoilers, please.
Oh my god. So you didn't watch The Last Agni Kai?
It's not that I didn't want to. It came.
You couldn't fit. Yeah, I get
came
you.
on while I was at ball practice. Like I couldn't.
Well, lucky for you, I own all 3 seasons of Avatar. 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, to include all 4 seasons of Korra.
Yes, I know we started watching Korra.
Korra wasn't as strong. It wasn't as strong. It was not as impactful. And I know Uncle Iroh was in Korra technically, but I needed like an Uncle. I needed Uncle Iroh like every other episode.
They
Like
did
I
4
got.
seasons of Korra?
They did 4 seasons.
I only remember 1 for some reason.
There was the first one with the dude who stole people's bending. The second one was trying to weaponize spirits. The third one was Zahir, who was a rogue airbender. I think he was season 3. Season 4 was the Earth Nation. The Earth Nation became the Fire Nation. Like ultra militaristic and tried to like subjugate the world.
Okay.
It's worth a watch. Season 2, super weak. Season 1, good. Season 3, really good because Zahir was a great villain. Season 4, also pretty good.
Wait, there was a rogue airbender. Wouldn't it have had to have been like one of Aang's kids or grandkids? Or...
If you watch season 2, you will see why there are more airbenders.
There's more airbenders?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You have to watch season 2 of Korra. I don't want to spoil it for you. Also, there's speculation that airbenders went into hiding during the purge. That ended up having children that were genetic airbenders, but didn't reveal themselves.
Okay.
I went way too deep into the headcanons of Avatar. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah, Uncle Iroh's the GOAT. Hands down. He's the greatest of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
Undisputed. Cannot be challenged. He's incredible. Incredible character. And they paid wonderful tribute to him at the end of season 2. When his voice actor passed away from cancer. So, but yeah, no, Uncle Iroh, absolutely the GOAT. Zuko, greatest redemption arc ever written, other than probably Anakin Skywalker. They're in steep competition with each other. But yeah, no, I absolutely love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Banger show. Even the quote unquote forgettable episodes like Secret Tunnel is still, you hear people all the time just like Secret Tunnel, and like everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, but
okay. So I'm guessing we should wrap this up and go watch some Avatar.
We gotta go to the gym.
Yeah.
Unless you don't want to go to the gym.
Actually, I was thinking, what do you think about staying home and doing a yoga workout?
Oh, I could get down with some yoga.
I need to stretch.
My legs are fried from deadlifts and runs.
Yeah,
so.
my legs are still pretty sore, so I feel like something to help with that would be.
Okay, yeah, let's do some yoga instead.
Okay. So, if you stayed this long, thank you guys. If you have any other shows you would like to get our opinions on, drop those down below in the comments, or any video games you would like us to talk about.
I will not go back and watch any more Grey's Anatomy. But
I've never watched Grey's Anatomy.
First 8 seasons, really solid. After that, it just falls. Basically, when Derek Shepherd dies, the show is over. Don't watch past that.
Why did you watch Grey's Anatomy?
It's a really long story. Like a really, really long story. But thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed it. We love making this content for you. And we're going to keep making it for you. So,
if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. We love having you guys, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Peace.
You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here.